Hey players, Keenan here. I wanted to check in and see how your crypts are coming along. A few folks have reached out about dungeon tiles, mentioning they don't have a 3D printer or train or all of this madness that is the crypt. And while yes, this can get quite complicated, it doesn't have to be. So I thought I would show you real quick how to take something simple, like a piece of cardboard, right? Like everyone's got to have an Amazon box right about now, and a paper template. Print one of these babies out. I'll drop a link for you in the description. And we're going to make this out of, well, what? The bin, right? I know times are tough right now. Money's tight for a lot of folks. And we got the holidays, so there's a whole lot of pressure. So I thought it'd be fun to just do a little change of pace, something simple and fun. And yeah, relax a little bit and make some awesome dungeon tiles. So let's delve in and create a crypt. Yeah, here's what you're going to need to get started. We've got just some Amazon boxes cut into chunks, some push pins. I got a couple Sharpies, brown and black, a pencil, scissors are helpful, steel ruler, some sort of a razor. I like the Oltha. I got a big one too. And then these templates. So there's a number of these that you can download and print out. I'll share the link in the description. These are all 28 millimeter templates, and they work pretty good just for setting up some quick and easy dungeon tiles. And the way this works is pretty simple. So let's clear this out of here and I'll walk you through it. Just go with the blank side, saves you some heartache. And what I like to do is just take one of these templates, just throw it on there anywhere. We're going to start with this guy, little 2x4. And you take your pin, and what you do is you just punch them through the corners. Kind of serves two purposes. It gives you a spot like where you can make your trim, right? And then also I like to just take one and just kind of punch lightly all the little corners. And so what that's going to do is just mark where you're going to put your lines. And yeah, you don't have to be a perfectionist about it, but just getting a little bit of indication through the template, pull those out, and that's what you're left with, right? You've got pretty fast little indicator of where to make your cuts, where to draw some lines, get your knife, get your ruler, line it up. Take your time here. Knives are sharp. Yeah, we just line up our outside dot with the outside on the other corner. Next up. Yeah, and the whole idea here is, we're being frugal. We're doing a lot with minimal materials, things you probably already have around the house, especially this time of year. And yeah, you're just gonna cut out your tile. Didn't quite get that guy. There we go. Bingo bango. And now you just take your Sharpie and for this, I kind of like a clear ruler. Just helps you see what you're doing a little better. But just make some marks on there. I'm using brown. Right. And what we're doing here is just transferring our grid over, right? So now you've get your center line in there. Right? There's a lot of different ways, different materials you can use to do this. I'm going with the cheapest, fastest route possible here, right? I like to add flavor. Went ahead and got one of these. It's just got all these amazing different shades, and we'll crack this open. We'll start with the darkest hue here and just get to work, just freehand some lines in here. Part of what's cool about things like tiles is like, they don't need to be symmetric, or like it's almost like the looser your lines are, the better in a way. So just kind of chunking it in here. Right, you can throw some cracks in. Like, just keep it sketchy, right? And yeah, we're just making some crazy flagstones. You can see like how loosely I'm going here. Like there's not a lot. There's nothing precious here, right? I like to kind of trim up the ends just for my own, because when you stack these next to each other, you want them to kind of line up pretty good. Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know how fast that was, but we've already got a pretty decent tile. And there's a lot you can do here, obviously, to up level if you would like to do so. I'm gonna try out some of these other markers, just experiment a little bit. Like I'm not quite sure what some of these hues are gonna give me. It might be kind of fun to just play with some markers, just add like some depth, getting crafty. It's like, I swear it's like half the fun of this stuff is just like, it's an excuse to make things and just try, experiment with different materials. Foam core is really great, if you want something a little thicker. Obviously, you got to purchase that. I'm literally, the goal here is to do this with as minimal materials as possible. And that's pretty good. We didn't do much, right? Now I'm going to share with you a sometimes well guarded secret. This right here, quick shine floor finish multi surface. I think I picked this up at Lowe's or Home Depot, one of the big box stores here in the States. 64 ounces of basically high shine acrylic varnish. I think this was like 12 bucks. This is something that I just transfer into a little bottle, quick shine gloss. And yeah, if you really want to level your stuff up, you can just drop some of this on here, make a mess, and you just coat it. Bingo, right? It absorbs in pretty fast. And just clean up real quick. Just let that dry for a minute. What that's going to do is just help seal the porous nature of the cardboard a little bit, give it a little bit of durability. You could use Mod Podge, matte acrylic. I got other stuff here. Good old golden matte medium. You can throw that on there. This stuff's more expensive. Bingo. Right. You can use a paintbrush if you want to. I don't really for stuff like this. And you're going to coat it. If you want to be fancy, you could like just coat your cardboard first. Just, kind of do a bunch of it as a setup. But before you even punch your tile out, take a piece, you know. I find this uses a little bit more material, because you're going to like coat stuff you're going to cut away. So it's just about like how thrifty, how frugal you want to be with your materials. You can even use like Elmer's glue for this. Actually works pretty good. It's another inexpensive option. But yeah, what this does is just put a nice acrylic sort of surface down, right? That helps seal up that porous surface. And what that's going to allow us to do is throw some paint on there pretty easily. Yeah, we'll clean up a little bit here and give that a minute to dry it, and then we'll come back. If you're impatient, like I can be, I've got this heat tool. I don't even know where I got this thing. I think I got it at the thrift store. A hair dryer works. This is basically just a little handheld hair dryer, and yeah, we can just turn that on. I swear, dry time is like 90% of the process is just waiting for stuff to dry with crafts. So we'll just move these out of the way. I'm going to throw in a palette. This is just a tile, and I got some water. We can do this any number of ways. I like to kind of start, so just get some cheap, you know, cheap craft paint. Goes a long way. Get your like your dark, your mid, your highlight. 3 colors is really like, if you're sticking in the, you got to give this a shake, but we'll throw some of this down. Don't need much. And what I like to do is come back to the quick shine and just throw a little of that in there. Oops. And yeah, I mean, we're just going to finger paint, right? Like you can do this however you want. I like to just keep it real scrappy, but just throw some of that, throw some shade, as they say, into the corners, drop it into the nooks and crannies. And I feel like, honestly, like almost like the scrappier you do this, the better the outcome. Like you can get precious, you can get out your brushes and be really detailed with it. And that's fun too. Your mileage may vary. Do what feels right. Or, don't paint them at all. Just the marker's enough. Stick with the marker. I've seen some really cool just pen and ink, black and white stuff. And, just be creative. Like, I think that's the biggest takeaway here is just like, don't overthink everything. Have some fun with it. Throw some midtones in there. You're just trying to get that sense of like light and shadow to invite some drama. Can even just dot the edges a little bit. And bingo. Yeah. Now we're back to our dry time, right? So the whole thing here is like, if you're going to do this, you probably want to do a number of them, right? It's like figure out your workflow. You could cut out a bunch, line them up, marker the lines in, do a batch of say 8 or 10, then go to your paint, right? And what that allows you to do is sort of work on the next tile, right? While the paint's drying, which is just a little bit more time efficient. We like to, as I say, move fast and loose and break things. So yeah, if you even want to get crazy, you could just take a paper towel, right, and throw in a little texture just to break things up. And here's kind of where we're at. Decent, right? All right, we're gonna let that dry. And go. Right? Like that's playable. We could go next level. I mean, why not? If we're doing a video. And for something like this, I'm gonna go like, I don't know, this is a number 6 Princeton. This is like a $4, $3 paintbrush. You know, get some water in it. This is where you go to your lightest tone. You can see our paint's still wet here, which is helpful, but just get a little of that paint moving, bring in some of our darker tone. You know, you want to exaggerate things a little bit with paint. But yeah, you can just come in here and throw in some highlights, just like where is light gonna land from that, that torch or that lantern as it's coming down the hallway. Kind of build out those edges a little bit. And you, again, like fast and loose. It's like, where's your light source? Maybe it's coming from this direction. You can kind of try and be consistent with that a little bit. Pay attention like to some of the corners and the cracks, and you can even sketch in like some stony shapes. And obviously, I mean, I'm going real fast here, right? You could spend as much or as little time on each one of these as you want, but the whole the whole point here is just to show that, like, with a little bit of creativity and like a lot of materials that you probably already have or that are really easily obtainable and inexpensive, right? Like, this isn't need you don't need a 3D printer, you don't need to go buy a bunch of stuff you don't already have to do this. You can throw some paint and some Sharpie on a piece of cardboard, and in a matter of minutes, you've created something that, literally, like, this is an original, right? Like, that's part of the cool factor here is that, like, this didn't exist in the world prior to this video, and now it does. And so it's custom, right? Like, you can you can go crazy with this stuff, which is, for me, anyway, it's like half the fun. I'm just gonna splash some of this gloss on here, and then what I'm doing is just taking a little of this brown to kinda just blend everything together like in a wash or a glaze. And what I also like about using that floor shine is it just gives this, like, when it dries, you can be pretty liberal with it, and it just kinda creates this nice solid coat on there, and it's just so inexpensive. I like to kinda dab the bubbles out. It's pretty durable too. I use it actually on all my 3D printed stuff. I mean, it's for your floor, right, which is gonna take a beating. So this stuff is, just adds a level of durability that you're not gonna get from other materials, and again, because it's so inexpensive, can't say enough good things about it. And, yeah, we're gonna dry this, and then we'll do some close-ups. Bingo, right? Not bad at all. Cardboard, Something about it, it just works really well because it's already, to my opinion, the best color for a dungeon, and paint just works with it pretty well. The natural texture of it just looks kinda stony already, and, if you want, you can come in here and you can add some details. You wanna make sure that clear coat, I'm just checking here to make sure it's really dry. You can come in here with a Sharpie and just add some contrast to this real quick, right? Like, you can just dot in some little cracks and crevices, some details. And yeah, that Sharpie is going to adhere to that clear acrylic pretty well and just give you a surface to separate that Sharpie from the cardboard. Like that. Sorry, the glare from the light's not great, but there you go. Another fun little tool, I got these, Sharpie, I guess they call them creative markers. They're like paint markers. I got the set, and, these are just fun for adding some color real quick. Like, if you wanna make some mossy spots, right, you can come in here. Let me zoom in a little bit, and, yeah, you could just throw and, it's like the color profile's not great, but it's just enough to add a little flavor here and there. And I don't wanna go, like, overboard with this, but what's cool about these, though, is because they're also acrylic based, like, they work well on that coat we already threw down, and, it's just super fast and inexpensive. So, yeah, you can add, like, some cool details, and you are gonna get that sheen, with that floor polish because it's glossy, um, which isn't great for camera work, to be honest, but looks pretty awesome on the table, with your minis and whatnot. Yeah, I think what I'm gonna do from here is just knock a few more of these out for 10 bucks, maybe 20 bucks these days. They go a long way. It's hilarious because as soon as you get going with this, it's kind of hard to stop. So hopefully you got some downtime coming up and can have some fun with this. I mean, check these beauties out. This could be a whole lot of fun. Get the whole crew together, throw down some super cheap, easy materials, and create your own crypt. Happy holidays, everyone. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.